This is Reggie, and this is Betsy. Due to some health issues, these little kitties are not allowed out to roam the neighbourhood. But my friend Lucy wants to create an outdoor space for them. So the plan is to build a catio on this patio, which measures roughly 3.6 by 3 meters. So I placed an order for the timber that I think I will need. And because this timber is pressure treated, for outdoor use in other words, it arrived very wet. So I want to stack it all up with sticks in between to allow it to air dry. It's been about 3 weeks. This timber will have dried out quite a bit by now. And time to set up a cutting station and get these cut to size. I'll start by cutting the longest lengths, the wall plates and the studs for framing the walls, and work my way down to the shorter pieces. This is 3x2 timber, measuring 70 by 45 mil, and it's recommended to treat the wood where any cuts have been made with a preserver. I find the most effective way to do this is to let the end grain of the timber drink up as much as it wants to, just for 10 minutes or so. The customer also wanted all of the wood stained dark brown. I may as well get the first coat of that on while I'm preparing the wood. I prefer a spirit-based stain as they really penetrate well and last much longer. I'll leave some links in the description to the preservers and stains that I like best. After a quick clean up, time to pack up the car and head over to Lucy's to make a start. I'm going to use the mortar lines between these pavers as a reference to keep the wall square. And I'm using 90mm galvanised nails. The first wall is the simplest one of the three, studs spaced equally. This isn't my first catio build, and last time I made one there were quite a few things that I could have done much better, so I'll be showing each design improvement as this video progresses. The first of which is these things, which I've never used before. They are made of rubber and are designed to keep wooden structures off the floor by creating an air gap so that the timber doesn't sit in moisture. I'm going to cut these down so that they fit underneath, hidden from view. I used a level to get my wall sitting plumb, and then I can secure it to the wall with some packers behind, again just to create a small air gap. Now, I expected to have to double up the rubber supports on top of each other in the area where the patio drops down lower, as patios typically have a slight fall built into them so that the rain runs off, but it looks like this patio has no fall, meaning I can just use single pads and it'll be nice and level. This wall is going to have a double set of doors just for practical reasons, in case they ever need to get any furniture in and out of the house. And what I want to do is line them up visually with the French doors that are here. So I'm going to measure the distance here, mark that out onto this plate, and then I can line my stud up with that mark, and everything should align nicely. These are all my door components, and there's going to be 3 in total. The first 2 are going to go in this wall, and I figure I may as well lay these out now to help me frame the rest of the wall. These door frames are just temporarily screwed together, mainly because I didn't have any exterior grade wood glue with me, so I can disassemble these again later and add the glue. And I'm using some glazing packers to give me 8mm gaps all around each of the doors. Then I can just space out the rest of the studs equally. Raising this second wall now was a mistake, which is going to come back to bite me very soon. You can probably guess why. And I'll add an extra stud in the corner, the reason for which will be apparent later in the video. The third and final wall will have a single door where this pathway is, and I'd already worked out that all 3 doors could be exactly the same size, which kept things nice and simple. Now back to that mistake I made erecting the second wall. It created a problem where I didn't have enough space to build and lift in place this third wall. So here I'm trying to figure out a way to lift the part of the wall that I had built by clamping on a spare bit of timber, allowing me to lift it all up in one. But it was only then that I realised I didn't have enough clamps on hand to secure this in place, and with no top plate on the wall, it was flapping around all over the place, so I couldn't let go of the wall without it falling and probably breaking something. So I laughed at my stupidity and then called for help.
I thought that was a phone call of I've fallen.
That was a phone
Phone
call.
an ambulance.
I panicked because I've backed myself into a corner and I didn't know how to get out of it. Eventually I could get the last few components fixed in place. This wall is going to get another stud in the corner too. And then I can get a couple of bolts in to secure the frames together. At the moment you'll see that the structure has quite a lot of wobble to it. So I cut and added some diagonal braces which will help make the structure more rigid. Last time I built a Catio, I really cheaped out on the mesh and I really regretted it. It was a nightmare to fit. So this time we've gone for this. This is 1 inch square, 16 gauge mesh, and this is a 30-meter roll, so I'm hoping this will be more than enough. My plan was to use side cutters to cut the mesh, mainly because I was worried about the mesh snagging on an angle grinder blade, but as you can see this was pretty slow work. Now I can start adding noggins to the wall. I placed these centered to where 2 sheets of mesh would meet together. To fix the mesh in place, I've bought some of these galvanized washers. I had originally bought some stainless steel mesh clips, but then I learned that galvanized metal and stainless steel would cause the galvanized mesh to corrode. These are less discreet, but they'll do the job nicely. They'll be a lot easier to fit than the staples that I used on my Catio. Now, one decision to make is whether to mesh from the inside or the outside, and I think I'm going to go with the outside here, because if this ever needs to be replaced, it'll be a quick and easy job to swap out. But I mean, this should last decades, I would have thought, so that shouldn't be a problem. Can already confirm this is a million times better than those staples. I'm going to set up a string line to work to so that I can get all of my noggins nicely aligned. Eventually I plucked up the courage to use the angle grinder with the mesh, and actually I didn't have any issues. Now I could have added the mesh while I was constructing the wall frames on the floor, but my reason for doing it this way was that I could wrap the mesh all in one piece around the corner like this piece here. But in hindsight, this did make things a bit trickier. So this project's all about keeping Reggie and Betsy safe and secure. But there's a different kind of threat to our own safety: data brokers. There are thousands of them online, quietly collecting and building profiles on you, not only for the purposes of annoying spam emails, cold calls, and targeted advertisements, but also scams and other nefarious activities. Incogni is a personal data removal service which contacts data brokers on your behalf, saving you a lot of time and effort, and forces them to delete your data from their databases. Since I signed up a year ago now, Incogni have found and completed the removal of 221 instances of my data online, and is in the process of removing another 13 as I speak. You can contact those data brokers yourself and request its removal, but the whole process is very time consuming and cumbersome. And Incogni continually monitors the situation to make sure that your data doesn't get acquired by them again. There's also a custom removal feature allowing you to report instances of your personal data that you might find online to Incogni so that they can action its removal. So take back control of your personal data with Incogni. Use the code RAGANDBONE for 60% off an annual plan. I'll leave a link in the description box below. I'm going to use some polyurethane glue on the door frames. And again, I want my noggins to align with the existing ones. I'm also going to add a diagonal brace to each door to make sure that they don't sag over time. It's important that these run from the hinge side diagonally upwards. I got some 300mm T-hinges to hang the doors. Usually I would use a longer hinge here. Ideally they need to be about 2/3 the width of the door, but these are lightweight doors, so I'm sure that these will be fine. Now to make a start on the roof, and the first job is going to be to fit a wall plate right above this door, and I want a little bit of an overhang on that side, probably around 20mm, and probably about the same on this side too, because there is this wire that I don't really want to obstruct in any way. I have some concrete screw bolts here which can be driven straight into the brick with no plugs. These are rated for structural applications, so ideal for this type of job. Once I was happy with the position of the diagonal beam here, I can mark up the angle I need to cut to get it to butt up to the wall plate. The idea here is to create a partial roof to provide some shade inside the Catio. Tilting the blade on my circular saw unfortunately wouldn't have given me the angle that I needed, so I had to make this cut in 2 passes and then use the handsaw to cut away the middle. This didn't always result in the cleanest of cuts though, and stupidly I didn't pack a chisel, so I had to hack at it with a multi-tool, which actually worked pretty well. I have some structural rated timber screws here. These have a proprietary head, annoyingly, but they do provide a compatible driver bit in the box. And these 150mm long timber screws will be great for securing the roof to the walls. Then I can cut my header joist, and I'm just checking I've dialed in the correct angle here. And that looked okay, so I can cut to the cut line. Next I'm cutting my noggins from the leftover 3x2, and it's probably important to make a point here. I'm not a roofer, and the methods I'll be using to frame this roof are probably quite unconventional. I'll use these noggins as spacers to position my next diagonal joist, so that I can then take a rough measurement for that, and mark up the angle taken from where the first beam meets the wall plate, and cut that. Then I created a jig held in place to the wall plate with clamps that's going to allow me to sit my new joist on top of the jig and position it so that it butts up not only to the wall plate but also the ends of the noggins that I added. I can then accurately mark up the next angle that needs to be cut for a perfect fit, and rather than go to the effort of lifting this down and then back up again, I'll just cut it while I'm up on the roof. It was a perfect fit, and I was feeling pleased with myself. From there on, it was just a case of repeating that method until all of the diagonal joists were added. Back at home now to cut some of these 2x1 battens to length for cladding one of the internal walls. You might have noticed earlier that one wall didn't get any mesh added to it. I'm using 15mm spacers here to add slats to the entire wall, checking from time to time with a spirit level to make sure that everything's straight. For the ends of the slats I drilled pilot holes and nailed in by hand to avoid splitting the wood. The same can then be done for the roof, and while I knew I had more than enough battens for this job, unfortunately I didn't have enough long battens to do the entire area with no joins, so I am going to need to join a few together. I want a slight overhang on these battens, about 15mm or so. I'm also leaving a small gap between the wall of the house so that water can pass through. I'll need to make sure that moisture cannot sit inside these joins, so I'll show how I do that later, but for now, some polyurethane glue on the end grain. I was dreading the next job, which was adding mesh to the roof. I knew it would be tricky because A, this mesh wants to curl up, B, it was going to be tricky to get it up there and fixed in place on my own, and C, I needed to find a way to support it so that it doesn't sag over time. Getting some screws and washers into the underside of the diagonal joist was a good start for holding it in place though. And from there I can cut the excess, and I got it pulled as tight as I could by hand. And then here I have some tensioning wire, which I thought I could use to stop the mesh from sagging. This is stainless steel wire, but it's wrapped in plastic or vinyl, meaning that again it shouldn't react with the galvanized mesh, and it comes with all of these fixtures and fittings. I did not find this easy to work with though, as it kept pulling out of those fixings. Maybe I was doing something wrong, I don't know, it didn't come with any instructions, but eventually I managed to get it fitted by tying some knots in the end before tensioning it properly. And then just to make sure that the two layers of mesh on the roof were secured together with no gaps, I wrapped around some galvanized wire. I also used the tensioning wire, coupled with some keyring hoops attached, and a screw-in eyelet to hold it in place, so that these latches can be opened from the inside. The final job was to get another coat of dye on the roof, and then seal up those joins from earlier using some black silicone. With the structure completed, all that's left to do is furnish the inside with fun things for the cats to play with, and that will be covered in a future video on the channel, so please stay tuned. The total cost for this one, it was £386 in timber. The mesh was £160, that was for a 30-metre roll, but we didn't use all of it. £60 on hardware, things like latches, handles, hinges. £96 on wood preserver and treatment. £54 for glue, fixings and washers. £9 for the tensioning wire, and £10 for the deck supports. So that's a total of £775. Thanks for watching.